for me, the game was Newcastle away when I watched that game, and they blew them apart. But I think they won 4-1 going to St James's Park and winning.
By the way,
4-1.
talking about Newcastle, that West Ham Newcastle game's an interesting one.
Well, it's a big game. Look, West Ham, Newcastle got that cup final, haven't they? So all eyes will be on that. Can they win that first trophy for many, many years? But they've still got that chance of getting that top 4, top 5, and that's such an important part of any football club now. Financially, if you can get that Champions League, it's massive for the club.
Do you think there's going to be a few changes tonight? You think West Ham would you make Hammer's favourite?
I've gone for a Newcastle win, but they've got a few players out now. Lewis Hall's out, and I think Botman's out now, the centre half. So, but they've still got good players. We know Gordon's out as well with his he's suspended. But it's a game where West Ham have found a little bit of form lately, haven't they? Beat Arsenal, back-to-back victories. So they'll be hoping they can get a little run to the end of the season now, and I'm sure he's going to do a good job.
Well, to give us more on this, let's bring in former Newcastle midfielder Lee Clark. Lee, a very good morning. Hiya, pal.
How you doing, Lee?
Morning, Al. Morning, Razor.
Tricky old game tonight, Lee. We don't know what sort of living Newcastle are going to put out.
Yeah, that's a big question, Al. You've just said there between the 2 years about Lewis Hall and Botman being injured, Anthony Gordon suspended. Isak took a bit of a knock in the last game. Does he risk him tonight, or does he wrap him in cotton wool for the weekend? Because obviously, when everyone's fit, we've got a good squad, but we do have a small squad. We've said that all the while because, the lack of players brought in because of PSR and the previous transfer windows. So it's going to test us a lot. Obviously, the game tonight, as Reza pointed out, still important to us to get into the top 4 or 5 if fifth's going to get a Champions League spot, because we would love that as a club. That would help our revenue streams for future windows.
Champions League, we're talking about Isak as well. That could be the defining factor whether he, stays on at Newcastle or moves on to, a big club.
I think, without a doubt, Al, I think if we don't get Champions League, we're in real trouble about keeping Isak. He's one of the hottest strikers in Europe at this moment in time, if not the hottest. He's got everything to his game. Reyes, I'll know, been lucky enough to play alongside Thierry. He's probably the closest thing in the Premier League to him. I'm not saying he is the new Thierry Henry, but he does have a lot of similarities. He can drop deep, he can go out wide. He can assist for goals, and he can obviously score them. So he's a massive player who will want to be playing Champions League every season throughout his career.
And you know what it's like, Lee and Ray. If let's pray God Newcastle do get Champions League. If they weren't to, you get all the people in his ear saying, "Look, you've got a Champions League. You've got to move on. You've got to move on." It drives you mad.
Yeah, that's football. When you're a top player, though, he'll know he'll not need people telling him. He knows his worth. He knows the level he should be playing at on a regular basis. We all know that. The Newcastle fans can see that. That's the big fear. That's why, winning a trophy and getting into Europe that way, or getting in the top 4 or 5, is imperative now to keep him. Because if we don't, how do you go and replace him? That's the key. To get a replacement for him would be very, very difficult, and it won't be cheap either.
Late 9th at the moment, Newcastle, but it's so competitive. That little group of teams who it's going to be probably top 5, who's going to be in Champions League next year. But you're only 3 points off Man City, who's in 5th place at the moment. So, you've got Brighton up there, Aston Villa, who got a good result, Bournemouth, who've been brilliant this season as well. You could argue Fulham just behind Newcastle at the moment. So that competitive nature in that league. So tonight's a massive game. If they can somehow get a win tonight against West Ham, who pretty much are in form at the moment because they beat Arsenal, back-to-back wins. Graham Potter's doing a decent job now, and he looks like a lot more organised. Then, they've got to be looking at that top 5, haven't they, Newcastle? And we all know Champions League football at St James's Park is amazing, but the atmosphere and what it is, it's such important for the club that they can get into that Champions League.
Yeah, there's so many factors about it. And as you said, there's 5 or 6 teams fighting for those Champions League spots now, and we can win tonight, puts us right back in the mix. As you said, we'll go level on points with Man City in 5th place. And then we've obviously got the cup final at the weekend, and that could give everyone a lift. So, and as you said, Champions League nights at St James's are just absolute crazy. Everyone loves
Special.
them. The atmosphere is electric. So, yeah, let's see what we can do. the injuries have hit us, but Eddie's always come up with answers for that, and hopefully he can tonight and at the weekend.
Lee, enjoy tonight, and of course at the weekend.
Cheers,
it's going to
Lee.
be great. Thanks, Lee, for joining us.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.